I played round number 2 of my tournament here in Stockholm, Sweden. I'm playing in Realton Eel for everyone that hasn't been following, and it's my first over-the-board chess tournament in quite a while. So today I played against Olle Algers, who is an 1800 from Sweden. He was 70 years old, and he told me about how he played against Karpov in 1969 in some simul. So he's been playing chess for a very long time. So I definitely knew that, you know, I shouldn't underestimate him, even though he's 200 points lower rated than me. Also because he's been 2100, so he's actually been higher rated. So I knew that I had to play my very best against him. So he started with the move d4. I was playing with the black pieces, and I went knight f6, as I always do, and then knight f3, d5, and e3. And I was not expecting this. I wasn't expecting this move at all, actually, because he hadn't really played this from what I could see in the past. So I was a little bit surprised, and here I thought for a while, because I wanted to get my bishop out to f5 or g4, but at the same time, I didn't want to allow c4 and queen b3, because then this pawn on b7 might become very weak, so I didn't want to allow that. So I decided to go for c6, so that if the queen ever goes to b3 at some point, I can go queen c7 and defend the pawn very easily. So I went bishop d3, I went bishop g4, pinning the knight, and then knight bd2, knight bd7. I was kind of threatening perhaps to go e5 here, which would be great, as I want to get a lot of center, of course, and if e5 takes and takes, the knight is pinned, so he cannot capture back. So here he actually did a move that really surprised me, which was bishop e2. And this move was surprising because he basically said, hey, my move bishop d3 was not good. Let me take it back and go to e2. So he just lost the tempo by going bishop d3 first. So this was definitely a mistake. I went e6. I was just trying to develop my bishop. Castles, bishop d6. I thought this bishop was fantastic here in the open line, looking towards h2. And here he went c4, which is a good move. He needs to put some pressure on my center, as I definitely have a better center here. I castled, and he went b3. And now the middle game is starting, basically, because, well, I've developed all of my pieces, and he's now going to be developing his last minor piece. So in this position, I knew that, you know, perhaps it was fine for me to go queen e7 or something, because I knew that I want to go e5 at some point. That is my dream, and I also want to stop him from going knight e5 and placing his knight in the center. But I decided to go for knight e4, which was a good move, and the idea of this is that right now I'm threatening to go knight c3, and if captures and knight d2, which is pretty much the only square you can go to, or one of the very few squares you can go to, I'll be able to go takes, and f5, and I'm just going to have a better position because my bishop is going to be so strong against h2. Both my bishop and my knight are going to be better than what his bishop and knight is, and I'm going to have a lot of attack towards the king. So I was really happy if that would happen, but after knight e4, he didn't capture. Instead, he went bishop b2. Now, in this position, well, very soon, guys, I'm going to tell you something. But in this position, I went f5. The idea of f5 is that I wanted to reinforce this knight so that if knight takes, I could also capture with this pawn and open up the f-file, and so that this bishop really would be trapped here. Because if I take with this pawn, maybe at some point there'll be some push or whatever, the bishop will be good. I just want to block this bishop and really play with this bishop versus this one. But I went f5. Actually, in this position, the best move is to go queen f6, which I think looks really hard. Like, it feels unnatural to me to put the queen over here. The idea is to stop him from going knight e5. But I went f5 here, and he went knight e5. And here, I literally thought for 20 minutes. And my mom, she's a grandmaster, and she's commentating all my games every day. You can watch the stream on my Twitch channel if you want to see her commentating my games live. She was like, why is Anna thinking? There's only one move in this position.
Now again, we need someone to come and just clap her on her shoulder and say, it's time to move.
She has to take this bishop. There's nothing else she can do. Why is Anna thinking? And I kept thinking and thinking for 20 minutes. And my mom had no idea what I was thinking about. Obviously she didn't, because I was thinking about what is objectively a bad move. But there was this one move that I'd looked at for so long and I really wanted to make it work. Like, really wanted to. Like, you know, it's like when you go and buy a pair of jeans and there's one pair of jeans that you love, but they only have one size left and that size doesn't fit you. Maybe they're too small and you're really trying to make it work, but the button just doesn't, you know, go. You can't close the button. Anyways, the jeans don't fit, but you really want it to fit. Okay, whatever. I was trying to make this move work, but it just didn't work. And the move is bishop a3. I was really trying to make bishop a3 work. Now, the idea of bishop a3 is that I'm basically rerouting this knight from this diagonal to this one. So the idea is that if captures, that there's knight c3. Now, I was looking at this line, and this is the most critical line because he pretty much has to capture. If he doesn't capture, then I'm just going to take this bishop and I'm going to be better. So he has to capture, but after knight c3, I'm threatening the queen and the bishop, but the queen can just go to c2, and after knight takes e2 and king h1, my knight is actually getting trapped after knight f3. My knight has nowhere to go, and my rook is hanging right now, and I'm just worse in this position. Like, this is just a bad exchange for me. So even though the move looks a little bit pretty, like, I just don't have anything. I was trying to maybe bring my queen up and, you know, have something cool going on here, but this is just a complete disaster. I mean, I am in with takes, and queen h4, but there's still, like, this just doesn't work. You can just take my rook, and it's just going to be way too much material up. So this move didn't work, so, you know, just like my mom said, the only move in this position was to go bishop takes e2, which was the move that I did. I went bishop takes e2, because this bishop is under attack, so I need to exchange. And after it takes, I had the issue that I had now thought for 20 minutes, and I didn't have any new plan. So I had to come up with a new plan because my bishop a3 didn't work. So here, I decided to go for bishop takes e5. Now, I knew that this move was probably objectively not the best. Objectively, the best move would have been to maybe go a5 and try to get some space on the queen side, but I captured the knight. The reason I did this was because I saw this very concrete line that after takes, and pawn takes c4, this pawn, when he captures back, is going to become very weak, so I thought I would have a better endgame, and I thought this would be really good for me after knight b6, putting pressure on that pawn. Now, my opponent played a move which I wasn't expecting, which was queen d6. Now, the idea of this is that he's threatening this pawn, and he's basically saying, hey, I'll capture this pawn later on. You don't have time to capture me, so, you know, let me create some attacks first. So after queen d6, I can go queen e8 or rook e8. It's crucial for me to defend this pawn. So I went rook e8, which is fine. And here, he made a mistake. He actually played rook fd1 in this position, and this is actually a mistake, but it looks very logical. The best move for him would have been to capture the pawn, because after this, knight b6, he wants to go queen back, and he wants to later on get the rooks in. He doesn't want to do that yet. So this would perhaps have been a little bit better, but he went rook fd1. Now, the reason why this is a mistake is because I go knight b6, I'm defending this pawn, so right now I'm a pawn up, and I'm basically saying, where are you going to go? Because whenever he moves his queen, I can move my queen too, you know? And if he starts exchanging everything, it's just going to be an endgame where I'm a pawn up and I have a winning endgame because this pawn is also very weak, so I'll just be much better in the endgame. So he can't do that. So he went queen c5, and in this position, I actually made a mistake. I should have gone queen e7 and try to exchange, because if I exchange the queens once again, I'm just going to be better because I'm a pawn up and it's going to be hard for him to get the pawn back. So I should have gone queen e7, but the reason I didn't do it was because I was scared that after rook d6, I was scared that after this, and knight c8, that this like wasn't good for me, which is like, you know, obviously it is because I'm an exchange up, but I was really scared about this pawn and about this diagonal being open. So I didn't go for this, and if you guys are wondering, you know, why he doesn't move his rook is because after knight c8, the rook is actually pinned as the queen is hanging if he moves the rook. So he would have had to, like, give up the exchange or exchange the queens, which both were, like, very good for me, but I didn't realize it during the game. So I went queen h4, which is a move that I had looked at for several moves before, which I thought was good because the queen was active and I was defending this pawn. Now, in this position, he did a move that I was completely not expecting. He went rook d4, and when I did that, I was like, oh, that was a move. I had completely missed it, actually. So here, it would have been better once again to go queen e7, but I went queen h5 because I still didn't realize that rook e7 was so good. So queen h5, the idea is that I wanted to put, maybe go to e2 at some point and put pressure on this bishop, because if he takes here, sometimes there might be a good knight a4 threatening the queen and the bishop. So depending on the position, there might be those ideas. And he took on c4. I don't want to go knight over here yet because, I mean, I wouldn't really benefit anything from exchanging. So maybe I could have gone queen e2, but I went rook d8 because I was trying to be a little bit tricky. As in this position, if he would have gone rook d1, I would have been able to capture and it would have been a checkmate because takes and takes is a checkmate. So I was basically saying, hey, I don't want you to be able to double up your rooks on the d file. I'm going to stop you from doing that. So that was basically my plan. Now he went f3 to stop me from going queen e2, which is fine. And I went queen g5 here, putting pressure on this pawn. If it doesn't do anything, then I'll just capture maybe and then go rook d8. So I went f4 to kick away my queen, and then I went back to h5 and said, hey, where are you gonna go now? I'm threatening to go queen e2. Now, in this position, his best move actually was to go rook e1, but I think that's a pretty hard move to do because it's a very passive move. This move is basically just to stop the queen going to e2 and asking me, like, what's my next move, which I honestly don't even know what it is. Probably h6 or something, but it's not clear how I should continue. So, yeah, that would have been his best move, but he didn't do that. Instead, he went rook d6. Now, by going rook d6, he allowed me to bring in my queen. I'm threatening the bishop. And in this position, he has to go bishop d4, because if he goes bishop over there, then I have knight a4. And if he goes bishop over here, then I have knight a4 as well, and this pawn is going to be hanging. So he has to go bishop d4. Now, he made a move here, which, if you just look at it, looks really good, but it actually loses the game. Like, he blundered here. He made a move pretty quickly as well. I think I thought about it for a while. And in this position, he went queen d4. Now, the reason he went here was because he's one, defending the bishop. He's still defending this pawn. But he's also threatening to capture my rook. And if I take, he's going to have pawn takes and he's going to checkmate me or promote. So, on the bare eye, it looks good. But he missed that I have a tactic here. And the tactic is quite pretty, and it's to go c5. And this is the move that I did.
She played c5. Wow, it's such a strong move. And, it's also a forcing move, because now black is really taking over the game.
And the idea of this is that I'm basically saying, hey, where's your queen going to go? He cannot capture my rook because then I'll take the queen. He cannot take here because then I'll take the bishop. He cannot go queen c3 because then I go knight a4 and I'm winning a piece. So the only move that doesn't lose a piece is queen d1. After queen d1, I captured on e3, which is good. He has to move the king to h1. And here I made a mistake. I mean, chess is a game of mistakes unless you're a GM. And okay, I didn't make a terrible mistake, but I went from being like -5 to -2. So the best move here would have been to capture on d6, but I was a little bit scared of queen takes and allowing the queen to come in. So I thought that rook c8 was a fantastic move because I'm still threatening two pawns. I'm threatening this pawn and I'm threatening this pawn. So I'm threatening two pawns at the same time, and I actually missed that he had a queen f1, which defends both pawns. And I thought that this rook c8 was such a nice move, keeping the pressure on the board, threatening several moves, but I actually only had 13 minutes left here, and I was at move 25, so I had to do 15 moves in 13 minutes. Which sounds little, which sounds like a lot, but I mean, like in classical, like 13 minutes is quite little. So yeah, he went queen f1, he was defending everything, and I was like, oh, like what should I do now? But actually, there's not only that. Right now, he's threatening to trap my queen. I mean, if I do h6 or something, there is rook e1 winning my queen, which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really see in the game, but I knew that queen e4 was a good move, threatening this pawn, but also giving a few more squares for my queen, because I did see that the queen didn't have a lot of places to go to. So I went queen e4, and he went rook c1, defending the pawn. And here I played rook c d8 because I realized that I actually do want to capture here. I realized that the only way for me to go forward is that I need to capture here because I have two rooks that are doing absolutely nothing. So rook c d8, yeah, it would have been better to capture immediately before, but better late than never. So in this position, actually, he should have gone bishop a3 to put pressure on my c pawn and try to get some counterattack. But instead, he went queen d1, which is actually a big mistake because now capturing is really good. But I think he thought that because I didn't capture before, I wasn't going to capture now. But now he ended up capturing on d6. And here he can either take with the pawn or with the queen. He took with the pawn, but if queen takes d6, the idea is that I can go knight takes c4. And if he would go queen d7, threatening my rook and this pawn, I can actually go king f8, and there's no more checks, as you guys can see. So this would have been really good for me, and I would be completely winning here. So after rook takes d6, he captured with the pawn to get this bishop going. I captured an f4, which is really important that I capture this so that there's no bishop e5 defending this pawn. So queen takes f4, he went d7, and I went rook d8. I need to go here, stopping the promotion. And now he went queen e2. Now in this position, this looks like it's completely winning for me. We see the eval bar being, super high up. But I was about to make a huge blunder. Like a huge, huge, huge blunder, which I don't think looks like a blunder immediately. And I realized that was a blunder like last second. Like I was literally holding my hand on top of the queen, and I was ready to move there. And the moment that I was really calculating, was like, okay, I go there, like everything looks good. Is there any counterattack? And I saw a counterattack. And it's always really important to never lose focus on the game, because the game can switch like this. Like it can switch very quickly. So here I was about to go queen e4. And this is a terrible blunder. Now, the reason why I thought queen e4 was good was because I thought if we exchange queens, it's going to be a completely winning endgame. I'll capture here, the rook cannot even move because there's a back rank. I'll be taking this pawn. I mean, I just thought that was a completely winning endgame, which it is. If captures, it's completely winning for me. I'll win the endgame. So this is not, an issue. And I thought, no matter what my opponent does, I'll be able to capture this pawn the next move. And the queen is really nice and centralized in the center. So I thought this was really good. But the move that I realized that he has is queen h5 over here. And this is fantastic. And after queen h5, he's threatening to go queen e8 check, but not only check, checkmate, queen e8 checkmate, because if I capture, he's going to make a queen. He's going to capture and promote with the queen. So he's threatening this, and if I take here with the rook, there's a checkmate. If I take here with the knight, there is queen g5, which is really pretty. The rook is hanging, he's threatening checkmate. I cannot defend both the rook and the checkmate. I need to go knight f6, but here there's bishop takes f6, and I'm pinned. So I'm just losing a piece here. I have to go rook d7, but this is just very bad for me. So after queen e4 and queen h5, my only move would have been to go g6. And after queen g5, I would have to capture on d7 and allow queen f6. But this is super scary. And here I would have to go something like rook d4 and try to hold this. Maybe this would have been holdable. Maybe I would even have won this. I don't know. But this is very, very, very unclear because I'm going to exchange down. Although I have some good pawns, but my king is very unsafe. So this would definitely have been a completely different game. And it's really good that I saw this, that I caught this last moment. So after queen e2, I did not go queen e4. I went queen h6. But that was definitely one of the most crucial moments of the game because I was really close on doing this. So I was really happy when I saw this. I went queen h6. Now I'm stopping the queen from going to h5, and I'm also defending my e6 pawn. So he went rook d1, and here now I could just capture the pawn, takes and takes, and he went queen d3, threatening my knight. Now initially I thought that I was going to go knight f8, but I wasn't a big fan of him being able to go queen d6, threatening my pawn, and then maybe entering and, capturing some of my queenside pawns, because if I lose all my pawns, how am I going to win? I need to win with my pawns, because that's everything that I have, more of, So I decided that it would be better for me to bring my queen and defend here with my queen. So I went queen h4. If captures my knight, then I have a checkmate. So in this position, he went h3 to get some air for the king, and then I went queen e7, defending my knight, defending this pawn, defending the checkmate, defending this pawn. And now everything is defended. So bear in mind that I had 1 minute left over here. This was move 35. I was playing moves pretty fast, but I was really confident in my position at this point because I felt like I was 3 pawns up, and I felt like now I had everything under control. So he went queen f3, threatening my pawn on b7. I went knight b6, defending the pawn, but also threatening the c4 pawn. He went queen e2. I went queen d7, taking control of the d file, keeping everything under control. King h2. I played h6 to get a little bit of air for my king so that there would never be, somehow some queen e8 checkmate, so that I always have air for my king. He went king h1. He was just going back and forth because he didn't know what to do. I was pretty low on time, so I guess he was trying to make me blunder. I went knight a4, threatening the bishop. The idea was that I also wanted to give some space for my pawns to start pushing. He went bishop a1. I went a6. He went king h2. I went b5. He captured. And in this position, I captured back and I stood up to go to the bathroom because this is move 42, so I had extra time on my clock. But the moment I captured back and I stood up, he actually stopped the clock and he resigned because I'm 3 pawns up. This is a completely winning endgame and there's not anything he can do. So he just wanted to save the energy and just say, you know what, this is completely losing for me. I'm just gonna resign. So I won the game, guys. I won round number 2 and I am right now on 2 out of 2 points. So I'm really happy. I'm gaining maybe some 6 points of rating, and tomorrow probably I'll play with the white pieces. So you guys know the ultimate goal here is to win the whole tournament. The number 1 player is rated 2177, so there's definitely chances of me being able to do so, but I've never won a tournament in my life, so it would be huge. So I definitely need to play my very best and focus. But I'm really happy that I'm starting on 2 out of 2, and tomorrow I'll probably play a stronger opponent, but we'll be back with the recaps. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's recap and enjoy seeing the game in round number 2, and I'll be back here for round number 3. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.